Are we rolling?
Sugar Daddy. If you're down cause your A1C is high, all you have to do is listen to our guy. Sugar Daddy. Sugar Daddy. Sugar Daddy. Ooh, Sugar Daddy. Sugar Daddy. Sugar Daddy. The man with the diabetes plan. Hey, Sugar Daddy. Sugar Daddy. Hey, Sugar Daddy.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Frank Lavergne, also known as Sugar Daddy. I'm here with my colleague, Carrie O'Day. She's our PA co-host, and we want to welcome all of you. Today, we'll be confronting obesity as a chronic inflammatory disease, and that's a key word, inflammatory. People don't look at fat tissue as inflammatory, but indeed it is. So it's not just a cosmetic issue, it's a metabolic issue, and people tend not to think of it as such. So we need to think about leaving this obesity thing, this stigma that we have about it at the front door. We need to really start moving forward and talking about this. It's a crucial conversation. Just like we leave the other chronic disease states like hypertension or type 2, we need to talk about it openly. So we need to have an understanding of what obesity is, how it impacts health, and what it means to start addressing it and what to do with it. So Carrie, when we say obesity, what are we really talking about?
So obesity is a complex disease. It involves excess body fat, and it is not just a cosmetic concern. It's a medical problem. It raises the risk for numerous conditions: heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, liver disease, osteoarthritis, sleep apnea, dementia, chronic kidney disease, PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, and certain cancers. So the causes are multifactorial. Many things can go into sort of what I guess is the inciting factor for this disease process to start. It can be genetics, it can be your own physiology, environment, diet, physical activity. All of these things play a role. So just like high blood pressure or diabetes, obesity is a chronic, multifaceted condition, and it needs active management. So Frank, with so many factors at play, how big of an issue is this today?
Well, I don't like to get too much into demographics, but in the last 3 decades, obesity rates have been more than doubling in the U.S. Today, over 42% of U.S. adults have obesity. 31% are overweight. And if you get the total of that, it's almost 75%. So by 2050, it is projected to reach 213 million adults and 43 million children having obesity. So we need to start thinking that beyond health, obesity has enormous financial impact. When and how does the problem really start?
Well, like I said before, there are many parts to this, but one thing that can often be a contributing factor is childhood obesity. This sets the stage for lifelong weight struggles. How? Well, biological reasons, behavioral reasons, and environmental factors all play a role. So what are the key drivers? A fat cell is a fat cell, but if at an early age it gets kind of larger, gets more persistent, that's going to be hard to overcome. Eating habits.
So let me stop you for a second. I got to tell you a story that when I was a little boy, my parents
would send me up into Chicago area to go to grade school. And I would stay with my grandma, abuelita, and my uncle. And I would be there during the school year. Well, the mentality in the Latino population is to, plump up your grandchild. So every year, while I was in the States, grandma would feed me, and then when we would go back in the summer, back to Havana, she was very proud when we got off the plane because I was nice and plump and healthy looking. And I remember my mother telling the folks at the house, like, if he doesn't want to eat, that's okay. And then I would kind of, disinflate over the summer, and I would go back stateside, and she would do it all over again.
And now, from what you're saying, was I developing a lot of fat cells?
Yeah.
And these fat cells hang around. You can't get rid of them. They're there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to share that story because I lived that.
Yeah, and I think that it all plays into cultural,
Right.
how are kids supposed to look, but definitely it is a driver into adulthood. Plus just the behavioral factors. You go to grandma's house, you're going to eat, or you sit down with your family, you're going to eat, and then environmental factors too. So unhealthy eating habits are hard to break. Habits are habits, right? And then those early metabolic changes are hard to break too. And then I'm sure everybody's heard about epigenetics. What does that really mean? Well, obviously you can't change your DNA. I mean, this isn't science fiction we're talking about, right? But you can change how it is expressed. So when you have stress, when you have maybe a poor diet, maybe the environment isn't healthy, the genes that you have, maybe their expression is a little less healthy. You see aspects that maybe are not going to serve you as far as a healthy person later on. And then early habits. Habits are so hard to break. They can lock in obesity through metabolic programming and lasting changes to your appetite controls. So if childhood sets the stage, how does this shape our biology as adults?
Well, this is an interesting thing because, I'm an old tennis player and we talk about set points. Well, this is a different set point, and it's when we have significant weight loss, our body establishes a new lower set point up in the hypothalamus. That's an area of our brain that has to do and control with satiety and weight and so forth. So this set point can be switched with medication, with metabolic surgery, what you know as gastric bypass surgery, or even intense lifestyle changes. But this set point starts to notice, your brain starts to notice that you're almost trying to commit suicide by losing all this weight. And one of the other things it does, it slows down your metabolic rate. So all of a sudden you start losing weight, but then it kind of stops, or you might regain a little bit of it. And that is related to that set point. And we're constantly trying to reset that set point a little bit lower. These medications will shift what we do with appetite, energy use, hormone levels, other hormones. There's a whole bunch of different hormones, hunger, satiety hormones that are constantly changing. They've been studied now. We have a better understanding of them. But we start noticing that if we do this, this other thing happens. And it gets very, very tricky. A good example of this, we are all hearing that on some of these incretin hormones, what people might know as Ozempic, as Mounjaro. Ozempic is semaglutide, Mounjaro is tirzepatide. All of these injectables, and now they're going oral, do create a problem for the patient. And that is when they stop taking them, and again, the studies have been done, when they stop taking them, the hunger comes back. So you might be in a car riding with one of these folks that stopped their Ozempic, their Mounjaro, and they're so hungry that if they see a cow, they want to slay it and eat the whole cow. And it's a very true, it's been studied. They've done where half of the group goes into a placebo. They're still injecting, but they're injecting saline, and the other one continue. And you see their weight start to go back up to that prior set point. So it's a challenge, and we need to talk to patients about how all of this works, all these long-term changes, and why these things happen. So I wanted to ask you, so with so many challenges, what's the latest on the newer obesity treatments?
Okay, well, first of all, I think the GLP-1 receptor agonists are more well known, like you mentioned a few of them before. There was Ozempic, Mounjaro. They help to kind of reset that set point that you were talking about, maybe lowering weight through hormonal changes and maybe actually kind of getting you to a new set point, a lower set point is the goal. There are also some additional benefits taking these medications for people with type 2 diabetes. Like it's been studied, they have fewer cardiovascular events, they have better kidney function for longer, and they have a lower risk of heart failure. There are also some new developments, like the Revita procedure, which the hope is what you were talking about when people go off of these medications, that perhaps this could provide some of the longer lasting metabolic benefits rather than the weight gain once we go off, because we don't know. I mean, does a patient have to be on these medications forever? They're new. How is that going to be handled? We've covered a lot of ground. What are the main takeaways from today?
So we know that obesity is a chronic disease, just like hypertension, just like dyslipidemia, where you can't control your lipids, your cholesterol, your triglycerides and stuff unless you're taking medication, you're keeping a lifestyle and so forth. So it's a chronic disease state. It has deep roots, very starting at a young age in childhood. We have to help our children understand that they just can't eat regular food. We're going to get into those issues, social determinants of health, in later episodes, but we need to alert not only the parents but the kids that they're heading the wrong way. And finally, we need to really talk about the treatments and what different ways they can take. Some really necessitate metabolic surgery. They need gastric bypass. There's all kinds of different procedures, but we got to get that weight under control. So in the next episode, we're going to be talking about chronic kidney disease and why it caught me off guard. And this is a big problem with the patients.
Yeah.
So let me close by saying, please subscribe to Sugar Daddy Podcast. And remember, you can do this.
If you're down 'cause your A1C is high, all you have